I have been having so much fun putting together some fall DIYs for you guys. I think I have 10 to share with you today. I can't wait to show you how I put everything together, so let's get started. So one of my favorite things to do is check out all of the new items they have out at Dollar Tree. I try to grab those and come up with DIYs for you guys. So this first item, I grabbed these pumpkins that have a removable lid. They're ceramic. They come in a white or an orange color. I grabbed the orange. It doesn't really matter which color you get. Just grab 2 of them. So I'm going to start by putting some adhesive on the pumpkins to attach them together. Now you can use any adhesive you like, something that's real construction grade like E6000 or some kind of construction adhesive. I will link below the kind I'm using as well as any product I use in the video plus what I'm wearing. Anything you need to know will be down in the description box. So when I was putting the pumpkins together, I actually realized that I should put them to where the tops were together. They just laid a lot nicer, so I had to move it around and re-glue it. Now let that dry for several hours. So I really wanted to nail down my color scheme this year for fall. So what I did was I went to Sherwin-Williams and I picked out 6 different paint colors that were in the colors I was wanting to use for fall. To cut down on my cost of paint, I then purchased samples. Well, I guess Sherwin-Williams doesn't have samples right now, so I ended up having to go to Home Depot and I got all of these paints because you can take paint swatches from any company to any different store. I picked up samples of each of my paint colors. I think they were around $8 each and I got them in a flat finish. So these are the colors that I'm going to be using throughout the whole season. To paint my pumpkins, I'm going to be using this subdued color and I'm going to do 2 coats on all of the pumpkins. Once that dries, I'll use my construction adhesive glue to add on a white plate to the top. Now, if you haven't guessed yet, I'm making a fun centerpiece cake plate to put out in my kitchen. Once everything dries, just fill it with your favorite treats, and I love having this out on my kitchen table. I'm working on a new project, you guys, and I need your help. I need to know your worst DIY disaster stories. Whether it's picking the worst shade of yellow for your kitchen, or maybe you tried a new DIY trend and it completely failed, I would love to know your stories. You can email me your stories at stories@lisfenwickdiy.com. Your story could be featured in an upcoming project, and I really appreciate your help. So when I walked into Dollar Tree, I found these silver pine cones. These are new this year, you guys. I was so excited to find them. I picked up 3 of them. If you're ever in doubt, if they have 3, pick 3. 3 always looks great in a grouping. Of course, I needed to make these more of the colors that I was going for, so I painted them 3 of the different colors that I'm using in my color scheme for this year, and I did 2 coats. Once I had them painted, I decided I wanted the stem piece to be a dark brown, so I just grabbed some acrylic brown that I had and painted the stems. Now these are great to sit out and sprinkle in your decor. You can put them alone or in a grouping, but here's how I styled them on my coffee table. So one of the items I create a lot of on my channel are garlands, and I do a lot of wood bead garlands. So I wanted to switch it up and give you guys another option for a garland you could create for your home. So we're gonna be making a clay garland. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna purchase a clay. I really like this Crayola one. I get it in the color white off of Amazon. I'll link it for you below. But essentially you're going to need 3 packages for this. So just one of the containers you buy off of Amazon will be plenty. I think 4 bags come in 1 container. So I'm going to start by creating 1-inch balls for all of the garland. Then I went and grabbed some skewers. These were ones that I picked up from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to take them and press the skewer through the middle of my clay ball. Then I will just leave it on there. I'm gonna twist the skewer in it a little bit just to make sure when I go back through with my twine, I'll be able to do that easily. So you're gonna repeat this several times until you have the desired amount you're going for.
Regrets, girl, put your faith in me, even though we just met. Let's forget about our curfew, cause all that is stuck in my head. It's me and you, both speeding, my heart is racing, but I'm not sure I want.
Next up is painting. So once everything has a chance to dry, you're gonna come back in and paint. I chose 4 of the different colors that I had picked out for this look. So I'm gonna paint 2 coats of paint. Now I want this to be kind of rustic, so I was okay if the paint wasn't perfect on this. This is kind of personal preference here, so if you want it to be more finished, maybe, make sure you do other coats. Now it's great painting them on these skewers because then you can just put them on something to dry, and I'll let them dry completely. Next, I'm going to be using a pretty firm twine to put my garland on, and I'm simply going to string the different clay balls that I created onto the garland. Once I was doing this, I realized I didn't really like how the red balls were looking in this grouping. I decided I wanted to keep it more muted, so I simply just took them off and I used the 3 colors I had. Sometimes you just have to make adjustments when you see it all put together.
Live life without regrets, girl, put your faith in me, even though we just met. Let's forget about our curfew.
Now you could add tassels to the end. I decided not to do that. So I grabbed some of my thicker twine and I just tied it in a knot about 3 times at the end. I cut off any excess. Because I was gonna be hiding the knots, I didn't really feel like I needed to do tassels, but you could always do tassels at the end. And this is how it looks styled on a table in my living room. You guys know that I love looking at high-end decor and figuring out a way that I can recreate that for so much less in my home. So I found in this magazine this really pretty old terracotta looking bowl. I've been on the lookout for a similar bowl. So I found one at the thrift store. I grabbed it right away. I honestly didn't even need to do anything to it because it looked perfect, but I'm gonna show you how I styled it with items that I grabbed from Dollar Tree. Whenever you're filling a bowl like this, you wanna use something that's like an inexpensive filler so you don't have to buy a bunch of items. So I grabbed a ton of Walmart sacks, Dollar Tree sacks, and I put those all to the bottom. Next, I used some Dollar Tree Spanish moss to fill the top. I think I used about 2 containers of this. And then on top of it, I just added some Dollar Tree pumpkins, but you could also add in the acorns I showed you earlier, or honestly just leave it the way it is. It's super versatile. I love the way this turned out. You guys are gonna have to let me know what you think of it. So a few months back, I created a paint pour vase, and I was reading the comments. You guys loved it. I read all your comments, so make sure you leave me a comment. And so when I was coming up with fall projects, I thought, you know, what if we recreated that on another Dollar Tree item? So when I was shopping at Dollar Tree, I came across this huge tray. This is probably the biggest tray that I've ever seen at Dollar Tree. So I grabbed it. I think it's in like the new school supplies, like dorm essentials. So look for that section whenever you look for it. But I grabbed this gray tray and I decided to do a paint pour on it. So in order to do a paint pour, what you're gonna do is just grab a collection of paints. I'm using those same paints that we've been using throughout the whole video. And you're gonna start by pouring white into your first cup. Then you're just going to add in additional paints. There's really no rhyme or reason to it, but you just wanna switch off sporadically so you get a variety of paints. Now I decided, since this was a big tray and I kind of had a small cup, that I was going to do 2 cups worth of this. Then you want to put some kind of container that you can start pouring on. So I just grabbed this bowl that I had in my stash. It's from Dollar Tree, and I put it in the center of the tray. Now here is the fun part. I started to pour the paint on there, and then as I'm doing it, I kind of swiggle my hands and I swirl them around. This is just gonna add a little bit more texture to your paint pour and a little bit more interest. Once you have all your paint on there, you can remove that center item that you used, a cup or whatever. Make sure you have something underneath that can take all of this paint, because there's gonna be a lot of excess paint. Then you're simply going to pick up your tray, move it around until you get that desired look that you're wanting, and you cover every inch of the tray. So I kind of had to move it around, cover the handles. You wanna get all of the excess paint off of there. You don't want too much paint on there. Once it's, looking the way you want it to look, set it and let it dry overnight. It's probably not gonna dry within a day, so just let it dry overnight. Now, since this was a tray that I was going to be using, I wanted to seal it. So I came in with my water-based sealer, did 1 coat on it. And here's a look at how the tray turned out. When I got to Dollar Tree, I also found these adorable little acorns, so I ended up grabbing 2 of them. So I'm gonna paint the bases of them with that nomadic desert color. I wanted them to be very neutral, very matte. And of course, I couldn't get through a Dollar Tree video without using some nautical rope. So that's what we're gonna be using to wrap the top portion. So all you're gonna do is put some hot glue on the back and start wrapping around the nautical rope. If you can, add your glue to the back. That's just gonna make the whole final project look better. I'm gonna keep wrapping it until I've covered the entire piece all the way up to the little stem. Now again, these are great to put out with plants or books or other groupings that you have. So just put them out with your already existing decor. Every time I create a Dollar Tree DIY video, there's always one project that just like gives me problems. Like I cannot figure out exactly how I want to do it. And for some reason it was these frames. So I ended up picking up 3 6x8 frames. Now we ended up having to go back and get an additional frame because one of the frames had staples on the front of it. So you might want to pick up an additional one in case yours have problems. So I started by just removing the canvas from all of my frames. I'm going to be using the frame portion, and some of these aren't perfect, so you will have to go in and sand off any imperfections on your frames. They don't have to be perfect, but just get them looking, halfway decent. I also found this tool that I believe you use for wreath forms, but I really liked it. I thought it was interesting and thought could make a really cool wall art piece. So I grabbed a bunch of different varieties of this, but I ended up only using 2. So once my frames were ready, I came in with that green tool and it honestly fit perfectly on the 6x8 canvas. I did have to cut off a little of one of the edges, and then I'm gonna pull it tight, hot glue it at the bottom, and cut off any excess. I'm gonna hot glue it to the top. You definitely wanna make sure that there's no excess hanging along the edges. I did the same with the other 2 frames, except for I used the leaf tool. Now I think these look great in a grouping. I styled them with some different items I had in my dining room on my shelf. So one of my recommendations for fall is to keep your eyes out for new stems or really nice looking stems. I was really drawn to these purple maroon colored stems this year. Now I will say they are stems that shed a lot. They kind of went all over the place. So you're gonna have to deal with that if you buy those. So that's just a warning on these stems. But I wanted to style them. So if you're gonna style them, I would probably pick up around 7 or 8 and I just put them in my vase, and here's how they look styled in my living room. Last fall, one of my most popular projects was when I painted an owl and sanded it. So when I saw the fox this year, I said, hey, let's try the fox and see how that goes. So I went in with 2 coats of the white paint that I had picked up from Home Depot, and I do kind of regret picking that weight. I think it would have been better if I just used Waverly white paint, because Waverly white paint's a little bit easier to sand. Once it has a chance to dry, you're gonna come back in with sandpaper and you're gonna pull off all the details so that you can see the details in the ears, the nose, the eyes, around the tail, and it just kind of makes a cute little figurine. So here's how the fox turned out. For this next project, you're gonna grab 3 jars and 3 sets of the LED fall lights.
Cool kind of melody. You rattle my cage without warning.
We're gonna start by painting the tops in an ivory color. So I'm just gonna do 2 coats of paint on the top of the jars.
You'll find a different side of me, the one I'd like to be, a different side of me, yeah. You'll find a different side of me, like someone pretty.
Now with the bottom section, I'm going to spray paint these in a frosted color. It's a color called Ice. Now I did have to buy this spray paint off of Amazon. It's not available in stores anywhere where I live, so I'll link it for you down below. Once everything has dried, I'm gonna add my batteries to the LED lights, and then I'm gonna put 1 set in each of my containers.
The one I'd like to be, a different side of me, yeah, yeah. You'll find a different side of me, like someone pretty need, a different side.
Now I was trying to figure out how I wanted to hang these, so I ended up using twine, and I'm just going to get 3 long strands, and I'm gonna tie 3 strands around each of my containers.
You're changing me, day by day got me shedding skin. The layers are peeled away, got me.
And then I'll pull those 3 strands up and tie them in a knot at the top to hold it in place. Now I did that for all 3 of the containers, and here's how they look styled and all lit up. I hope you guys are just as excited as I am for fall. I have so many fall awesome videos coming your way. So make sure you're subscribed if you're not already so you don't miss out. I post videos on Mondays and Thursdays. And let me know down in the comments which project was your favorite. I really like your feedback and knowing which projects you love. And I'll talk to you guys in our next video. Bye.